Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day. So I have been stuck for content for like 2 weeks now. I mean, I know the reason. I went down this rabbit hole where I watched a TV show that I used to love, which led me to this idea of me wanting to talk about the TV shows that I liked as a teenager, because I did a book version of this and that video did pretty well, so hopefully you like this as well. So let's get straight into it. And I also have today's coffee with me, but more on that later. So let's first talk about the TV show that I started watching, and that is Arrow. I started watching Arrow when it first came out. I think it was on season 2 when I finally caught up to it. So I watched it when I was very young and I was obsessed. I absolutely loved the show. I probably liked this for different reasons than most people, but I do agree with some of the more common opinions when it comes to Arrow. For example, like I wholeheartedly agree season 2 is their best season. They should have ended it after season 5, after they wrapped up the island. The new Team Arrow ruined the show, and they definitely should not have brought Laurel back, especially as an evil one. However, the first 3 seasons and season 5 had some of the most amazing performances I've seen on TV, and especially a few characters that I want to mention, starting with Moira Queen, who is Oliver's mother, played by Susanna Thompson. And I don't know, man, I love that character. Every time I watch it, I love her more. Her love for her children and her willingness to do whatever it takes, however morally compromised it is, and no matter how diabolical, is what makes her such a fearless and complex character. And then finally taking a sword to the heart for her children. I mean, come on, like there's no braver sacrifice than that. And that's just one of the characters that I love. Like, apart from Oliver and Felicity, which me personally I really liked them up until season 5. I also loved like characters like Roy, Thea, Laurel. Like she's one of my favorite characters. I love her arc. The Laurel lands from this earth, not the evil one. And Katie Cassidy was born to play Laurel. Sarah, I love that sister dynamic that they had. I have a sister, and trust me, like, I don't know, every time I watch their scenes I cry. I even like Diggle. I like Diggle because he's like the biggest Ollie City shipper ever. But apart from that, I'm not really a fan of his character arc, because he's just this good person and I didn't really see anything beyond that. He was just inherently good and that was it. And of course the villains, like a hero is only as good as their villains. And you have Adrian Chase, Slade Wilson, Malcolm Merlyn. I can't really pick a favorite because they were all superb in their own individual way. But I would say Adrian Chase is the most terrifying because he's an actual psycho. But Slade Wilson is definitely the most memorable. Again, I don't really like what they did in season 6 because they made him more likable just because he's a fan favorite. And Oliver and Slade literally ended up being like best buddies, which can never happen because he killed your mom. And you can never forgive that. That's an unforgivable sin. So there's no coming back from that. So I didn't really like how they ended his arc. And then you have Malcolm Merlyn, which is a character that's so broken that he doesn't know what's right from wrong, and all he has is his fatherly love for Thea, which is questionable at best and certainly selfish for so many reasons. At the end, he, like Moira, made the ultimate sacrifice to save his own daughter. And then you also have Quentin Lance, another fantastic character that they built up and killed off screen in a later season. Like, one of the best scenes on the show was in season 3 when Quentin and Oliver were in that van and he finally lets his feelings out. And the best part about that scene is that everything he says is all true. As the Hood, Oliver made him look like a fool in season 1, and then in season 2 he made him an accomplice, and in season 3 he hid his daughter's death from him. And then there's this line where he says like, when did you decide you knew what's best for my family? There were so many lines that they shared, especially with Quentin. Like, that was such a great relationship, and it just like fizzled out. And Paul Blackthorne as Quentin did such a remarkable job. But after season 5, it was like these characters was just there to deliver lines and say stuff for Oliver, and didn't really have anything else to do until the end of the season. Like, and they do something bizarre for that wow factor. It ends up killing him off screen, which is no. And you know, the best part about these 5 seasons was that it had a flow. it wasn't episodic, like there was a story going on, and the decisions that these characters made had severe consequences, and it was also well executed. You feel the pain, you feel the anger towards these characters and the decisions they take, but you also understand them because you know them so well, like they've been built up for such a long time. You can't exactly say that they made these decisions out of character. For example, Malcolm's twisted love for Thea, or Laurel bringing Sarah back, and in the flashbacks Oliver deciding to kill Slade instead of curing him, or Oliver and Felicity breaking up, which I know a lot of people hated her for that, but looking back and watching season 4 again, I feel like it was there already. Their relationship wasn't perfect in any way, and it was heading that way. It made sense. And another one is like Felicity joining Helix. I love that whole arc. I don't know if you ever thought about this, but I can clearly tell you the themes from seasons 1 to 5. Season 1 is Homecoming, 2 is Past Sins, 3 is Identity, and boy did they play that so well. And season 4 is Light versus Darkness. I don't know about you, but watching season 4, when I watched this season without having to wait a week for like an episode, when I watched it consecutively, I actually liked it. It's a great story. And season 5, which is Legacy. But after season 5, I couldn't tell you a theme even if you had a gun to my head. It was such a fuck up, man. Like in season 6, you bring this kid who's such a bad actor. He's only there for us to see how bad Oliver is as a dad, and there's nothing more to him, and he has no relevance to the show. And then you have the most probably the worst characters in Arrow history, Renee, Dinah, and Curtis. They could have done so much with these characters if they had played to their strengths, but Curtis just ended up being this weird guy who was good for nothing and just makes the cringiest jokes. And Renee is just the muscle who is just there to help out. He gets like his own flashback episode, and after that there's nothing. And then there's Dinah, who I was so excited about after that first episode when they recruited her. I really wanted to see more of her. They took such a wrong direction with her character. I'm mad at Oliver, I'm not mad at Oliver, I'm gonna help Oliver, I'm not gonna help Oliver. And I mean, it's so obvious in the last seasons that even Stephen Amell doesn't give a shit anymore. Like, he was one of the most dedicated actors that I knew. He was so committed to the role, but after season 6, it's like he didn't give a shit. He's a good actor, but he's only good when he has somebody he can play off of. When you have an entire cast that is just so bad and you kill off the one person like Quentin Lance who can actually do something, there's just no story to tell. And season 8 is again like, what the fuck was that, right? It was basically you taking episodes from different seasons and then reenacting them. We don't need that as the last season. Like, anyway, that was it. I really wanted to talk about Arrow, and these were like some of the thoughts that I had in my head when I was watching it. I've been watching it for like a long time. I know this was long, so thank you if you were listening. So if you missed my last sit down video, I talked about how I want to incorporate coffee aspect into my channel, because my channel name is Books and Coffee and I love coffee. I really want to talk about them more, so I'm going to be reviewing coffees from different cafes in every video. So for today, we have, this is the Red Velvet Latte from Butter Boutique. It's one of my favorite cafes. This is about 650 rupees. And that's the normal price for like a fancy coffee here in Colombo. I will put like a good picture here so that you can see what it looks like in the cafe. I'm gonna try it out. It's good. It's really good. I've tried this before and I haven't tried it in a while because it's kind of expensive and I don't really drink this all the time, but it's so good. It's not as sweet as you would think, but you get that red velvet taste. I'm in no way trying to like be a coffee connoisseur. If you ever drop by there, I would highly recommend this one. It's really great. Okay, so the next one is Supernatural. Now, this is my first adult TV show, and Dean Winchester was my first crush. I remember watching the first episode at my cousin's house and I immediately loved it. It was fun. Like two brothers hunting ghosts and demons. I mean, that was such an original idea, and I think they did a good job until about, I don't know, 5 or 6 seasons. I think I watched season 7, just never caught up with it. I think they went on for like 15 seasons and it ended last year. And sometimes I would see like it blowing up on Twitter after like an episode or two, and then I would go back on Wikipedia and like see what happened. But it was another thing that I really liked. as a kid, as a teenager. By the way, this has a very good aftertaste and like a very bitter undertone to it, so that it actually stays in your mouth for a while. I really like that. Next up is Hellcats. This is another trashy CW show that ended getting cancelled after season 1, but I still watched it. It was about this girl who wants to go to university, and she can't afford to go on her own, so she applies to this cheerleading scholarship and she gets it, and she goes there to study to become a lawyer. And the story follows all the drama and the beautiful people in this cheerleading squad. I think Ashley Tisdale is one of them. So I watched it. I loved it. I definitely watched it more than once. There was no story to it. I just like the beautiful people. Next up is Castle. Again, like, such a fantastic show. It was such a great idea for a writer to work with the NYPD for his book, and then like the chemistry between Castle and Beckett was what we watched it for, because unlike all these shows, it was good until Beckett solved her mother's murder and they almost got married. I actually think it should have ended there, and whenever I watch Castle, I just watch those seasons until they get married, until they almost get married, because after that the story took like a very weird turn. Instead of ending it there and giving them like a happy ending, they dragged it on until eventually people stopped watching it and it got cancelled. They made this very quick ending which had no relevance to the season. And there were some really great episodes in Castle, like all the episodes with 3XK, I really loved them. And that episode where Castle witnesses a murder from his apartment, which turns out to be a surprise that Beckett had for him for his birthday. I loved that one. And then the whole Beckett's mom's murder, I loved following that case. It was so interesting and I loved how it ended. Of course, they didn't have much in the way of character arcs, but the story was good. It was fun, it was engaging, so I really loved watching it, man, like up until season 6. Next up is Baby Daddy. This is a sitcom and I don't think it's that popular, but I watched it. I watched a lot of trash TV. I mean, with my love for like trashy vampire books, I feel like this is just par for the course. So this is about this playboy who gets a baby dropped on his doorstep and it turns out to be his. The story follows him becoming a father and figuring out his life with a baby. Okay, the show was actually pretty sweet and funny, I think for about 2 or 3 seasons, and after that didn't focus more on the baby but focused more about like other shit that went on which wasn't funny and interesting. And it almost felt like there was nothing else to do there, so we ended the show because of bad ratings. I did really like the first few seasons though. I might have watched it more than once. It's still better than How I Met Your Mother. Don't come for me. I stand by that. Next up is Tower Prep. I don't know how I found this show and I'm amazed that I still remember the name. But I think it went on Cartoon Network. It only went on for 1 season again before it got cancelled. And I don't really remember what happened. I had to check Wikipedia. Apparently it's about this school a school for like gifted children with powers, and they have no idea how they got here and there's no way out. I don't remember anything beyond that, but yeah, that was another show I watched. Clearly I watched everything that aired on TV. And finally, the last one is Power Rangers RPM. This is the only Power Rangers series I watched. I haven't watched any of the others. They were a little too colorful for me. My sister and I used to watch this religiously. I remember coming home from school and watching these. I think we even had DVDs. And we actually watched this again recently, skipping most of the fight scenes, but that's actually what takes a lot of screen time, so there's very little time for the plot. Plot is actually salvageable, I would say. It by no means any good. But the underlying plot where like Dr. K creating the virus that takes over the world and creating the Power Rangers, that part was like really interesting, her backstory. And then there was one of the Power Rangers called Dylan, and his backstory with him being a half human, half robot hybrid, and the story about finding his sister and losing all the memories, and that was like another good plotline. They didn't really explore them enough. It was a lot of info dumping and then a solution. But I was 14 and I didn't really care about those stuff, so I loved it. So that's it. I didn't mention Vampire Diaries here because I talked about it in my other video, but that was a huge part of my teenage years. It was another obsession, but I already talked about it, so I'm not gonna talk about it here. With regards to the coffee, I think I would give this a 4 out of 5. I really liked the coffee and I would highly recommend it. It's not something you can drink every day, but if you ever drop by Butter Boutique, you can buy this. You should try this. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I might also make a movie version of this because there's a lot of trash in there too. But until then, hope you have a great day and I will see you in the next one.